Question 26b says if triangle Q is enlarged by a scale factor of 2 about point 4, minus 5 to form triangle R, draw triangle R on the same grid. So we're enlarging triangle Q by a scale factor of 2 to form triangle R. They gave us a point at which triangle Q is to be enlarged to R. You have 4, minus 5. The 4 is the x coordinate or the x value of the point, while minus 5 is the y coordinate or the y value of the point of enlargement. So we locate point x is 4, y is minus 5. You go to the grid, you have x is 4 here, that's x is positive 4, y is negative 5, so we go down to negative 5. This is it. This is where we have negative 5. So we mark the point. And from this point, we enlarge triangle Q to form triangle R. Enlargement is easy. It's just about you understanding the process. You can use your ruler for your enlargement. You have Q1, Q2, Q3. You have each of the vertex points of this triangle Q, and we can use them to create triangle R. First, from this point, let's take point Q1 first. We'll draw a line from the point of enlargement through point Q1 as long as possible. Let's do that first. Take our ruler and do that. Draw the line as long as possible. To get the location of R1, triangle R is an enlargement of triangle Q by a scale factor of 2. Since this is a vertical line, getting R1 will be easy without our ruler. To get point R1, that's of the enlarged triangle, which is corresponding to Q1, you can measure the distance between the point of enlargement and Q1, and to get the location of R1 on the grid, you double it. If the distance from the point of enlargement to Q1 is, say for example 4, and it's enlarged on a scale factor of 2, to get that point of triangle R, you multiply 4 by 2, that's 8, and from this point you measure 8 on this straight line to get point R1. But since this is a vertical line, and also if it's an horizontal line, you can just count the grid lines, and in this case the horizontal grid lines. Let's say this is 0. You count 1, 2, 3, 4. Q1 is 4 grid lines away from the center or the point of enlargement. R1, since it's times 2, will be 4 times 2, and you have it as 8. So from the point of enlargement, you count 8 horizontal lines on the grid to locate R1. So we count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This is where you have R1. This is your R1. If it were enlarged by a scale factor of 3 and you have 4 grid lines to get to Q, R will be 4 times 3. That will give you 12. So you have to count 12 grid lines to locate R1. But since triangle Q is enlarged on a scale factor of 2, if you have 4 horizontal grid lines, you multiply the number of horizontal grid lines by 2, then you count from the point of enlargement the result you get. Now we have point R1. I said earlier, you can measure with your ruler the distance between the point of enlargement and Q1 to get the location of R1 on the grid. Using the ruler, from the point of enlargement to Q1, it's about 4.6. So to get the location of R, we multiply 4.6 by 2, that will give us 9.2. And by the time you trace 9.2 on that line, we'll have it at that same point for R1. So you can either use your ruler or count the grid lines. Using the grid lines in this case is better. Let's locate R2 using Q2 and the center of enlargement. We take our ruler and draw a line from the center of enlargement through Q2 as long as possible in the grid. We can erase this green line now since we have R1. We'll draw the line. long as possible. This is long enough. Then we measure distance between the center of enlargement and Q2. This green line is slanted or is slanty, so it's better we use the ruler than to use the grid lines. Although in this case we can still use the grid by counting them in diagonals. From center of enlargement to Q2 is about 5 centimeters. We have that's 5 centimeters or 4.9 centimeters. And since it's an enlargement by a scale factor of 2, it will be 5 times 2. R2 will be 10 centimeters away from the center of enlargement. So we go up here, this is 10. If you look closely, you see it's not on an intersection or a place where the vertical line of a grid point meets with the horizontal line of a grid point. So you get the exact point where a vertical line meets with the horizontal line on the grid point, about the distance you measured with the ruler. This is 10, so we take this point and we mark it. We can take our ruler off. This is where you have it. You know, like said earlier, you can count the diagonals. Like this is 1 diagonal, 2, 3. You needed to count 3 to get to Q2. For you to get to R2, it will be 3 times 2, that's 6. You therefore need to count 6 diagonals. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You see, you still have the point there. So depending on which method you're most comfortable with, you can apply. So we have this as R2. We have R1, R2, we need R3 to form triangle R, which is an enlarged triangle Q by a scale factor of 2. We have vertex point Q3 here, and we have center of enlargement here. We need to draw a line from the center of enlargement through Q3 as long as possible in the grid. We draw the line. As long as possible. Next, we pick our ruler and measure distance between the center of enlargement and Q3 to get R3. Distance between the center of enlargement and Q3 is about 2.5 centimeters. So 2.5 times 2 will give you 5. So with this information, we know R3 is about 5 centimeters away from the center of enlargement. This is the center of enlargement. Then we go from 0, we go up to 5. 5 is here. We need the closest point where a vertical line of the grid meets with an horizontal line of the grid. So using 5 won't give you a perfect location. We just need the grid lines to guide you. This is where we have 5. The closest is here. We have a vertical grid line meeting with an horizontal grid line here. So the point is actually here. This is where we have R3. So we can mark point R3 here. This is therefore where we have R3. Next, we join R1 to R2 to R3 back to R1 to form triangle R. Let's start by joining R1 and R2. We join R2 to R3. Then R3 to R1. We now have triangle R, which is an enlarged triangle Q by a scale factor of 2 about point. X is 4, Y is minus 5. So this is our R. Hope you understand.